Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. Wow, that was an excellent introduction. Good job, Ariane. Today, we're going to talk about how to create your own GRE study schedule, and we're going to make this a little bit more interactive, especially for those of you guys who have been waiting excitedly, I hope. I want this to not be just me talking to you, but actually helping you draft this real time. So I'm gonna talk about some pointers at the beginning, more about if we're going to have a live stream for 1 hour, I want to say maybe the first third to half, so about 30 minutes. Talking about pointers, things to keep in mind before we dive into our calendar and start blocking time off, just so we start on the right foot. We start with a good set of expectations. We want to keep things realistic and try to make this personalized for us so it works specifically given our circumstances. Okay, enough talking, or actually, let me introduce myself. Hi, if you haven't seen me before, my name is Ariane, but you can call me Ari. I've been working for Magush for about 2 years, and I've worn a few hats so far. I have worked as an academic specialist, as a content creator, and also as a live class instructor. And let me see, who do we have here? We have Sneha, Susmita, Gyanpam. Hi, everyone. Thank you. And another thing to keep in mind, because I want to talk to you guys, and depending on how many people end up showing up to the live, I might not have a chance to do everyone's schedule, right? I might have time to do 2 or 3 or maybe even 4, depending on how quick we go. But I want to give priority to those of you who have been staying here for the duration of the live stream, or if you weren't able to join early at the beginning, but you really are interested in being one of the examples and you don't mind volunteering and creating or letting me create a schedule based on your specific example. I would like you to comment, let me know that you're interested, keep engaged throughout the live stream, so that way I can come to you and give priority to those of you who are here since the beginning. All right, let me remove my face because it can be a little bit distracting as we go through the first. You probably stopped listening to me. Let me see. Stop. I want to stop just the, oh, never mind. This is what we do. Okay, wonderful. Sorry about that. As you can see, I'm still learning the live stream platform, but I think I'm getting a little bit better each time. Okay, so let's begin with some pointers. And also here I can write some things on my own handwriting. Okay, let's go first with who is this class for? So if you're joining us just because you were curious, you saw that we were live, I want you to know that this is for everyone. This is for anyone, but the people that will find this more useful will be those who are early in their test prep journey, or maybe they already took the GRE, but they didn't really have a specific strategy or a game plan set up. So they want to begin studying for their retake in a more in a more organized way. So if you are thinking about taking the GRE and you don't know where to start, this is a good class for you. Or if you are already more familiar with the GRE, but you still feel that you can use your time more effectively, then I also encourage you to stick around. All right. Okay, next one. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Materials, because there's so many things, there's so much advice out there in the internet and Google and Reddit. The things that you do need to have no matter what are official materials. So we're talking about the GRE. The GRE, the creators of the GRE are known as ETS, and they're the ones that create the books and also the practice tests. So why do I say that this is a non-negotiable? Well, you want to make sure that you are working with as close to the test material as possible. And what best material than the one that is made by the same people that create the actual exam, right? So if you were to choose, if you're short on your budget and you can really commit to a specific test prep study plan or another, like a private um, test prep company or other test prep material, then at the very least, please get yourself the official books and some practice tests as well. So good things or good news. They are free practice tests. Once you register for the GRE, you will have 2 free practice tests. And as for books, the books you can buy actually separately. You can buy the books as in the official guide just separately. I think that one runs for about $30, or you can buy this thing called the Superpower Pack, which has a bit of a funny name if you ask me personally. But what's good about this is that you get extra questions to work through and a bit more specialized or advanced information on the topic, especially when you talk about the quantitative and then the verbal sections. Now here I've included the links for each, except that this one, I included the Amazon one just because it's a bit cheaper. If you go to the actual ETS website, I think this whole Superpower Pack runs for about $72, but the Amazon one is around 50. So of course I'm going to try to get you the best deal, and I can also go ahead and send those links to you because you cannot click them through the live stream, of course. But copy, paste. There you go. So the first one is the one for Amazon, and then the second one is for the Power Prep Plus. I think you have to actually have an account. Not I think. I mean, I'm sure. I'm sure that you had to create an account already with ETS. You don't have to sign up for the GRE, but once you have the account, you log in and you can find the free prep material that ETS offers. Okay, more material to consider. Oops. Now, this is optional. This is if you know yourself. For example, everyone learns differently. I use the example of going to work out. In theory, everybody knows that working out is good for your health and that you should do it every day. Now, there's certain people that like to work on like alone. There's other people that like to work out in community, or they like to have they would like to have an instructor, somebody to guide them, just because maybe they get distracted easily or they don't find the motivation to do it on their own. So this is where the other material that is not official comes in. Now, of course, I am biased. I work for Magoosh, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about Magoosh. Now, you can go with whichever option you find better for you, for your specific situation, for your budget, etc. But what I like about Magoosh is that it is not only extra material, but it does have more official material here. Why? Because we actually have a full practice test that is licensed by ETS. So what you will see with other test prep companies is that they have questions, right? They have questions, materials, but the quality of those questions might vary across topics, across sections. And what we have with here at Magoosh is that
not only have we gotten really good reviews from students who have used all of our materials, all of our lessons, and gave us feedback, but also they've gone ahead, also we've gone the extra step of reaching out to ETS directly and collaborated with them. So we have a full practice test that is written by the official test writers. So not only will you get 2 practice tests from Magoosh creators, but you will have the extra test that is with official content. So let me check the questions really quick. Oh, okay. Thank you, Aideni, for sending the right link. All right. Moving on. Let's think about how long should you study versus how long can you actually study. This is when we're talking about keeping things realistically. So a lot of people come to me and they ask me, how long should I study, in terms of, as if there's a sweet spot in terms of hours that anyone should study every day, every week, every month in order to get to X score. Let's say a 320 or a 330. Well, you have to realize that not everyone starts at the same level. So the amount of hours that one person that is super comfortable with math, with algebra, with logical reasoning, perhaps they don't need to put in as many hours preparing for that section as another person who has been out of the academic field for a while. They have been working full-time or maybe 2 jobs, or who knows where their life took them, but they have forgotten their quantitative skills. So instead of thinking in terms of hours, I want you to think about habits and routines. Okay, so you need to think of yourself think of yourself in a vacuum, or yourself as an individual without comparing yourself to other people. And think of, okay, where do you stand? And we, of course, want to reach a balance between what we can realistically create for habits and incorporate into our already set routines versus the goals that we want to accomplish. So also think, what are my goals? What score are you aiming for? Score target. Actually, I should have put this over here. What is your baseline, right? And then based on that, you can gauge, okay, maybe I'm not that strong in math, so I need to put in a few more hours just relearning or preparing for the things that I have forgotten. And then think, what hours can I put realistically? So think of your hours as a bank or a budget, and you're taking things out. So you start with your non-negotiable commitments. You have your full-time job, right? So your work, your job. Then you can have volunteer commitments or hours that you already set yourself to do. Perhaps you have a family, so family quality time is also very important. So you set those aside, and then you start subtracting from your overall bank of hours within a given week. So make sure that you just don't neglect all of these. As we start doing the schedule in the calendar, you're going to see what I mean by working backwards and then finding time in order to dedicate to the GRE. Now, most students, they start very motivated and they say that they can work or they can put in 15 hours of study time per week. But realistically, most students average around 5 hours total. So the average is about 5 hours. What I ask you is to, if you can, if it's within your means, try to aim towards 10 to 15 hours and see if we can build those into our schedule. Now, once you look at your schedule, if it doesn't look realistic, then start cutting some hours. And it's okay if instead of 10, you do 8, you do 9, you do 7.5. But what you need to, the best way to approach this is to do something that is realistic and approachable, and something that will not make you burn out in the long run. Okay? No questions, we move on. Okay, so as we're looking to, let's say we already figure out the hours that we're going to set up every day, but what do you do during those hours? Well, you want to do a bit of a cycle in between these three processes. So the first chunk of your study prep journey, keeping into consideration the end goal, which is your test date, right? You're going to take a look at how much time you have until then. So let's say that you have 6 weeks until test day, right? Then that means that you could split these into 2 weeks of learning. Now, actually, no. Excuse me. You're gonna have 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and 2 weeks, and you want to cycle between these three in each of those 2 weeks. So let me rewrite this in a way that is not confusing for you guys. Eraser. So in the span of 2 weeks total, you want to go through this process. Okay, so learning. Learning, you want to do learning for both quant and verbal. You don't want to work too much on one, and then you find yourself, maybe you're burnt out, and then you feel like, or perhaps you realize that as you were preparing for as one specific section, you get focused or hyper fixated on that section, and then you neglect the other one. You want to make sure that you are going from quant to verbal, back and forth, right? So look at what you're missing in quant, what topics. So this can be your algebra, whoops, your arithmetic, etc. All of those subtopics. Same with verbal. You can have a vocabulary, you can have grammar rules. So you're going to start by learning. Here you start looking at your books or lessons, depending on whether you have only the official guides, or if you also have another, like a supplemental material such as Magoosh. Then you want to review. As you're learning, you're also going to be taking some practice questions, and these questions will be more of your drill questions, all right? So make sure that in between those, you're reviewing each of the questions, and make note of each error. Review each error and really pay attention to those. So what I don't want you to do is to dismiss a question that you got wrong and say, oh, that one was easy, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Why? Because it's very easy to dismiss it and then you forget about it. And for example, if you're looking at books, there's a very predictable way that the books will throw questions at you. If you are going over a specific chapter, those chapters will show you examples of that same topic, and then you start noticing the patterns, and it becomes easier for you to see what to expect from a specific question. But when you're actually looking at the more realistic practice exam, right, instead of the drill questions, you're going to be shown questions from different topics. So they can throw you off, they can take you by surprise. And that's when you will realize, hey, you know what? I'm making the same little mistakes that I was making early on. So one way to avoid this is by keeping an error log, taking note of each like all of those silly mistakes, why are you making those mistakes? Ask yourself why, and how can you prevent that? And then look at whatever you are keeping track of those errors. Take a look back at those. And finally, here I have practice, and what I mean is time practice. So when you are in these two phases, this can be untimed, as in you're not timing the questions, or when you're doing a practice set of, let's say, 10 questions, you don't have to necessarily reach for or aim for a certain average or a certain pace. Now, you do need to make time for time practice so you can focus on test taking strategies. So in this, the first two, you're talking about theory. And then in this one, in time practice, you're talking about applying that theory. Any questions? Oh, okay. I have a comment saying that it sounded better with my headphones on. Let me see.
Let's do this instead. Is that better? Or if there's no difference, it's okay. Let's see. All right. Now let's go to our next. Okay. Now, in the first week, I want you to think strategically about the GRE. So here, gauge your knowledge of the test itself. If you've taken the test before and you've already done this part of the preparation, you're free to skip it. But if this is your first time taking the GRE, then it's worth taking the time to do this. So learn about the test itself. And let me change the color here. Let me do white. You want to know how many sections. You want to know the types of questions that you'll see. And then you move into the topics or content. So I haven't mentioned this to you yet, but one of the first steps that you should take is taking a practice test as a diagnostic. So the best way for you to learn is to know what strengths and weaknesses you have so you can work on those weaknesses. And you can have an idea of what topics you're already okay with not drilling so heavily in those, when you get into the thick of your study time, and what topics you should definitely spend a little bit more time or you should prioritize in your study sessions. So based on your diagnostic, create a ranking of topics. And then you, if you can take this one, you can spend a little bit less time than on these two, specifically on this first week. But think about how the GRE, how it compares to other tests, or let's call it regular tests, right? So the GRE doesn't want to know whether you know the topic or not. It wants to know whether you can get to the right answer effectively using logic and faster. So it uses that, or the way that it scores you is by putting you in a very under pressure setting. You're being timed, and they're going to present you questions that could be done in the formal way or the correct way, and then there are other ways that can save you time but will still give you the right answer. So You can use shortcuts, also known as the strategies, right? And also think about the algorithm that the GRE has. So the GRE, what it does is that the first section will be kind of to gauge your performance, and then the sections after that, they will take the performance of your first section, and then the second section will be either more difficult or easier, or about the same if you were about scoring half and half on that first section. So if you understand how the algorithm works, then you will be more at ease, or you'll be more comfortable with knowing how to do pacing, how to do like strategic guessing. Oops, strategic, of course. Strategic guessing. And all of this just to get the hardest part out. This is the first week will be the one that looks more different than the rest, because you're learning the ins and out of the GRE. After you get past that, you know, you have a game plan, you know what to do, and then you start developing the habits and just putting in the work. You're grinding through the topics, you're grinding through the questions, and then you're getting used to the types of problems that you're seeing. You're getting more familiar with those, and finally, you're building the stamina by taking full practice tests. All right, and we're getting to the point where I should ask you guys if there are any questions. Any questions in chat? All right. Since there are no questions, then let's move on to the second half of this live stream, which is actually building calendars, or study schedules, I should say, but using a calendar. So let me go back so you see my face really big. I stop presenting over here, and then I screen. Let me share the right screen. Presenting. Okay, just checking. Yep, you can see me, you can see the screen. Wonderful. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where I'm going to ask for any volunteers. So who would like to be the first volunteer? And let me build your schedule for everyone to take as an example. In the meantime, there are some questions. How many points is the GRE over? The GRE is over 340 points. So let me just triple check. Yes, 340 is a perfect score per se. So you have your 130 to 170 scores in verbal, and 130 to 170 scores in quant, and then you add those together, and that will give you your overall score, or your total GRE score. All right. Somebody asked, how many weeks, months does it take to prepare for GRE from scratch? All right. So I talked about this a little bit earlier, and it's not a one fit all question answer. So it depends on how long you've been preparing for the GRE. Oh, well, here we're talking about scratch. So it's not about the GRE, but about your background knowledge. So How comfortable do you feel um, with reading comprehension activities in general? Do you read on your free time? Um, do you feel comfortable with math and logical thinking, right? So that is the first part, and the first or the best way to gauge that is through taking a diagnostic practice test. So that's your first time. Then you think you realize if you were to take the GRE right now, what score would you get, right? Then compare that to what score do you need? Have you already looked at the programs that you want to apply to, and have you seen the average scores that admitted students have for maybe last admission cycle or the year before that? So you realize how long of a gap or how big of a gap you have in between what you're scoring right now to your target score, and then you make up a plan realistically for that. So if you want to have a nearly perfect score, then you could mostly anticipate, if you're coming from an average score, something around like anywhere between 6 months to 1 year preparing, just because scoring a perfect score is, as you can guess, very, very difficult. Um, but yes, it all depends. It depends on each person. Oh, they Viviani, yes, here. Thank you for volunteering. Wonderful. So I'm going to be asking you some follow-up questions. Um, and the first one would be, do you work full time, or what would be your biggest time commitment for the week? If you are a student, that would be classes. If you are working full time, that will be your job. So give me a general idea of what your schedule looks like right now, or like if you're a student, if you work full time, or something else. Maybe you study part time and then you work part time. But what would be the chunk of the hours that are not available for you? Okay, so you are a student. What I like about student schedules is that they are more flexible than full-time jobs. So let's say, well, I those are more complicated. So I'm going to do a general. I'm going to do my best, and then you can correct me as I go. But if we have, for example, 3 classes, and let's say that you're not a morning person, and you have your first class here, and let's say class 1, and then this one takes place Tuesdays and Thursdays for 1 hour and a half. Oh, why did that happen? So this one, we said it does repeats custom Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it lasts from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Okay, cool. This and the following events. Okay, then you have another lecture, perhaps same time, but this one you see, or you have 3 times a week instead of 2. So this one does repeat Monday, Tuesday, Friday, 9.5. Then after that, you have a specific section that meets only 1 hour per week. So this is, we can call these labs. So that is one class. Why did I put class 3 then? This is, okay, now we're missing class 2. Then you have another class. Let's say you have your lunch break, and then you come back for another 1.5 hour class that also takes place Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, not that one. Let me change it. Let me change the time. And this one, instead of 3 p.m., it's like 3:30. And this is class 2. Okay. And how many classes is that? 1, 2, 3 classes. Lab is associated to one class. You could probably fit another class. And this one, let's do, again, 1 hour and a half, or 1 hour, but 3 times a week. So class 4 does repeat. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. Does that look like a realistic schedule? So we have here 1, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. So around 10. We have around 12 or 13 hours right there. Okay, I'm going back to check the comments just to see if Devyani sent more. By the way, I'm creating this. If you're joining just now, I'm creating this study schedule for a student. So Devyani has their exam the 20th of June. Okay. Now let's set up. So we're in April. June would be about here. This is Tuesday. This would be testing. Oh. How is it that I put? Yeah. So this would be GRE day. Let's make it in a different color. So what does this give us? This gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So counting this week, that will give us 9 weeks. Let's say instead of counting this week, we're starting next week, right? So that gives us 8 total weeks. About what? 2 months? Okay, I think that's good enough. So starting from next week, what else do we have? Well, we need to eat, right? So we're going to include a lunch. Oh, I'm missing lab here. This is happening every week as well. Repeats weekly on Thursday. Okay. So right now, this is all we have here is class. We don't have homework time. We don't have study time for class. Neither do we have any other extracurriculars. Daviani, do you have extracurriculars? And if you do, how many hours do you have for those? But in the meantime, you want to at least 30 minutes of lunch every day, right? No, not that. So this will have weekly or every weekday or every day actually. You have lunch for 1 hour or for 30 minutes. Let's put that in. Everything that is like just your personal time should be kind of like, let's do yellow, for example. And then except this one on Thursdays, let's put it, let's say you have an early lunch. When is this lunch? It's at 12. Save. No. Doing this one wrong. Discard. Okay. Is it coming on the other one? Yes. So actually changing this custom, just not on Thursdays. There you go. This and following events. And then just on Thursdays, we'll have it at 12. Okay. Lunch, 10, and yellow. And it repeats every Thursday. There you go. Cool. Okay, So now you have lunch. You also have to work in breakfast, dinner, etc., just like that. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do it, but you want to start doing this and have a baseline of your own schedule. And then you start working with everything else that you have left. Now, rule of thumb, most people don't want to do studying late at night, because think about it, you already gone through a full day of working or studying or going to school, and the last thing that you want to do is have more chore type of work to do, right? So what has worked best for some people is dedicating at least 30 minutes in the morning. So if you're not too much of a morning person here, I'm not going to tell you to wake up at 5 a.m. But if you can work, um, let's say that you have to, it takes you 1 hour to get to campus, right? Commuting. So you have commute. This would be every weekday, right? That takes time from your day. Then you also want to wake up, get ready, eat breakfast, maybe doing your regular homework, you're studying. Um, changing this to every weekday, or actually every single day, because every day you wake up and every day you eat breakfast. So daily in the morning. Well, if you can at least do 30 minutes, if you can wake up 30 minutes earlier and you can add that study time, let's put this in purple. And you do that, let's say on weekdays, every weekday. And then if you have this time in between, when you get to campus to class, you can perhaps devote, again, 30 minutes or GRE prep. Let me do this better, because this is a student. The student definitely does studying, but for other classes as well. So you can do this except Thursdays, I think. Yep. Oops. Put that in green and purple. Okay, so here we've already secured at least 1 hour every day. And if you start thinking in terms of chunks of time, that feels better than forcing yourself to do 1 hour at night that you might or might not have the willpower to get to after a full day of everything else that you have in your schedule. And then if you know how to track your time effectively, or like to, once you get to your study prep, or you start the clock, okay, GRE prep, and you know where you left off, cool, you don't have to do more. But for some people, it's also helpful to know exactly what it is that they're going to focus on. So you can write here, okay, today I'm going to review or watch lessons 1 through 4 from Magoosh. Or you want to read chapters 1, or start, then you will start dividing chapters. Chapter 1 of the GRE official guide, or official prep guide. So you do that for this event. Oops, why is this not working? Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, my mouse sometimes disconnects randomly, but we're back. So that way you create something tangible for you to follow when you're not exactly sure, or you're pretty much doing the bulk of the work beforehand. So you're not wasting that much time um, thinking, okay, what is it that I want to study today? And then you can create for yourself. Maybe this first week, here you're thinking about the GRE, everything that you need to, excuse me, you're learning about the GRE, for example. So you start reading the first chapters, etc., 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 and then next week is when you start. Oh, before you start the next week, then you will begin your diagnostic test. So if you have time left on your weekends, which most people do, here's where I would advise you not to break up in chunks. Why? Because the practice tests, they take about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So allow yourself that time to do a full GRE test or practice test, and this will act as a diagnostic. Why do we want to do this? So we can review it after, and then it depends on how much time you have on Sunday, but anywhere between 1 hour and a half to 2 hours of review. And this is what's going to give you an insight on what topics you should be focusing on moving forward. Now, here, I'm working very generally, um, right? But you're going to take this and you're going to customize this. So perhaps not every day looks the same for you, and you're going to have class very late at night one day, or you're going to have them very early during the day. But what I want you to do is find pockets of time that you could implement some of this preparation, and think about your own way of working. When are your best times for learning? Are they in the morning? Are they in the afternoon? Or are you a night owl and do you not mind staying up a little later? But be okay with doing those every single day or every week. It doesn't have to be every day. Perhaps you take Tuesdays off because you work a very long day, or you have other extracurriculars that make Tuesday not feasible. Okay, but how can you make up the time for those? Is there any other day that you could add those two 30-minute chunks? Or for some people, a commute is not driving, but it could be in the metro or going on a bus. That's also some space for study time. So if your commute is, doesn't require you to pay attention, you could actually move your GRE prep into this one. So just to give you some examples. Now, let me go back to see if there are any questions. All right, Deviani, is there anything else that maybe you would like me to consider about your schedule? Well, you have here, no, I don't have extracurricular, but I am preparing for another exam simultaneously. Okay, yes. So if you not only have the GRE, but you have another exam, yeah, use this as well to schedule the time for yourself to study for that exam. So this can be exam prep, and that is another color, perhaps this purple. And you do those with the other days, but give yourself time in between GRE prep and the exam prep. Or if you know that you can focus for long periods of time without interruption, then you can bundle those in a way. But consider all the other commitments that you have, including these exam prep, including your commute back home, your dinner, your social time as well, and then make a commitment for yourself. Once you have done like the bare, like if you can commit to something, make it as easy for you for your schedule as possible, so it doesn't disrupt your routine as much. And once you've found that sweet spot, perhaps the most disruptive part will be when you're taking practice tests. So this, after this diagnostic this weekend, I wouldn't tell you to take another full practice test the week after. Perhaps even not the week after that, but after, like on week 4, yes, you should take your practice test number 2. Why? Because by this time you have one, 2, 3 full weeks of preparation beyond learning, like after you've taken your diagnostic test. So you want to make sure by this time, and after you review it, so don't don't forget to schedule your review time once you schedule your practice test, because review is equally as important as it is with the time practice. So in this one, you should know if you're making progress. And if you're not making progress, then question, why is it not making progress? Are you not sticking to your already laid out schedule? Maybe you're not waking up early, you're waking up late. So it will be good for you to perhaps move all of these in the later in the day, right? Or how can I cancel that? No, I want to go back. Am I doing this? Yes, so you keep that to where it was. Goodness. Yes. But moving forward from the week after, then you're changing things. So this and following event. There you go. So here you're learning from your mistakes. Okay, morning didn't work. Then let's try afternoon, or then try evening, or be adjusting as needed. Okay, Viviani, thank you for volunteering. I'm going to answer some other questions in the meantime. Okay, so Faith, we have 1, 2. Okay, I already did a student. Should we do a working? Oh, we ran out. Oh, I did not realize I took so long creating that single schedule. But you can use at least the idea of chunk or blocking out time based on your biggest commitment. So for a student, it will be class. For a working professional, it will be your work day. So if you have any breaks within your workday, use those breaks and think, do you have time to perhaps study, squeezing like vocab work for 30 minutes during your lunch hour or your lunch break? Can you order some delivery so you can now not think too much about making the line to buy food, but maximize and optimize the time for GRE studying? So that's why I'm sorry I didn't get to do another calendar. But let's see what other questions. Will this be available for watching later? Yes, this is recorded, and as soon as it will be done, it will be available for you to rewatch. You know, we have enough requests about a working schedule for working professionals, so I'm going to make an exception and run this one a little bit longer, just so because I really want this to be helpful for you guys and for you to feel that if this is an overwhelming task, that at least you have some sort of guidance and we can do this together as well. So if you use Google Calendar, do this as you're seeing me, or if you use another calendar, then use this as an example. What other question? I'm working professional full time, can spare towards okay. This question, and then I'll go and do another calendar. Please tell me about the home test and requirements of precautionary measures. Okay, this is a really good question. Something that you need to keep in mind is that you will be using what's called or a service known as ProctorU. It's in collaboration with ETS. So the proctors are not provided by ETS as in the official administrator of the exam. Instead, they contract this separate service, and then they receive the instructions separately about how ETS will want them to administer the test. But keep in mind, because the ProctorU or any other proctoring service works with many other contractors or other exams, they work with universities, their schedules or their shifts don't necessarily align with the duration of the GRE exam. So I took the GRE not too long ago at home using ProctorU, and what I noticed is that I had a total of, I think, 4 proctors in the span of my whole test. And if you don't have a, depending on your camera, so you have to keep into considerations your webcam, that it has good contrast, that it's positioned so when you're working, right, you're going to work on your desk or at the surface, whatever you're working on, that when you're leaning down to work, that your face is not covered completely like this, but that they can at least see a little bit of your face. So why? Because what happened to me is that I will be leaning down a little bit too much, and they will interrupt me to ask me to prop myself up a little, and that can be very distracting, especially if it makes you lose your train of thought. So keep that into consideration. Also, get yourself a whiteboard, because they won't give you're not allowed to use just any scratch paper. You have to erase everything in between sections and after your test is done. So either you buy one of those cheap from Amazon whiteboards that you can use a dry eraser on, or what I ended up using, and I have it here, is you can put a piece, like a sheet of paper, under a Ziploc bag, and then use your dry eraser and use a cloth to wipe it off in between questions. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Okay, let's go do one. Let's go do one calendar for working professionals. Okay, so let's do this one from scratch. So here I'm going to do my own schedule as an example, but you feel free to personalize it. So I start my day on, like, I work Monday through Friday, and this is a regular 9 to 5 job, but realistically I end somewhere around 5:30. So I have work, right? And oh, I'm in May. I want this to actually happen since today. Starting today is the 18th of April. Okay, save. Isn't following this. Okay, did it work? Yes. So I will start this week officially, but I work out in the mornings. So I work out here, or actually I can just bundle all of this. So working out, eating breakfast, showering, getting ready, cleaning up. So morning routine, including workout, showering, breakfast, etc. So this also happens Monday through Friday. Okay. And then I usually, so depending on what kind of breakfast I get, if I'm cooking from scratch or if I'm meal prepping, this one can take all the way from, oh, how did I change this one? Okay, It can take all the way until I start working. I work from home, so it's only this event, and it might take me every 3 days. I do that. I meal prep. So some days I have this space, some other days I don't. I'm being realistic here. Now, after work, I like to have some time to just disconnect. I go for a walk. This is my walk. And I try to do this daily, but sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. So, same thing. Maybe on a Monday, I'm not going to do it, just this event. And maybe on a Friday, not, because instead of walking, I want to go out and have dinner with friends, so social dinner. Okay, this is me working from home. Now, if I were to work at an office, I would add probably extra time, or I would wake up a little bit earlier to account for commute time. And same thing here, something after work. Okay, I do know that I have a break around here at 12, just not today. Today is Tuesday, but I have a break for lunch. And this does happen every day, and it's only 1 hour. So having this, I do think that while I'm doing my meal prepping, so I do meal prep in the morning and I do meal prep at night, depending on the day, depending on how much food I have left. But because I already have the lunch ready, I could review a little bit of vocab here. So I can do GRE prep vocab for me, at least, because it goes very fast and I don't need to use my hand. So I can eat with one hand and then with my phone or with with the other hand, I can scroll through my computer or on my phone, and then I can hit two birds, one stone. All right, so this one I'll do, yeah, Monday through Friday. Meal prep. Let me do another color. Let's do green on this one. Okay, on my walk. Well, I am willing to compromise my walk, and instead of doing 1 hour, I could do just or actually, excuse me. Let me finish the date. So let me finish my not negotiables. So then I have dinner, and winding down. Dinner takes some place around in between 6 or 7 or 8. So let's do 7. And yes, it's somewhere around 45 minutes, and this is dinner. Yes, 7 to 2, and it repeats every day. Really, yeah. And I should have done this for like lunch, also happens daily. But maybe on the weekends, I try to stay more flexible because I either do lunch dinners, lunch dates with friends or family, or other things, and winding down and getting ready to go to sleep around 10 p.m. Or let's do that a little bit longer, because then you have to do like brushing your teeth, doing like all your skincare routine, um, flossing, etc., cleaning the kitchen. So let me do that from 9:30 to 11. This is daily. Boom. Okay, so now I have a few options. Now, what do I do in between these hours? Well, I usually like to relax here. So ideally, for me, I wouldn't use this time to study, because I know that I don't work well after after the sun is down. What I would do instead is I would wake up a little bit earlier, because I don't mind waking up earlier, and do study here, GRE prep. And this one I will be flexible with myself. So even though I'm putting a time, a chunk of time of 1 hour, I'm going to set it as 30 minutes to 1 hour, because some days I'm more tired than others. So this one will be every weekday, again in green, and it can be either 30 minutes to 1 hour, and this one can look more like this event. And things like that. So you start kind of like negotiating with yourself to see what works for you specifically. And also, I know that I already mentioned earlier that I would sacrifice my walks. My walks are not negotiable. So instead of doing 1 hour of walks, I will do 30 minutes moving forward, and then I can do 30 more minutes of work. Since I'm coming back from a walk, I have a little break from work, and I have a bit of I'm more fresh. I feel more refreshed, and that sense of newness or switching tasks that will help me focus better, especially if I'm learning new material. So this would be every weekday, except on Friday, because on Friday I have my social dinner. So then how much time do I have here? I have one, so this is 1 hour, 2, 3, 3 hours, 4 hours, and then if I were to say this one's a full hour, 5, 6, 7 hours, and then these are half, like instead of 1 hour, I do 30 minutes, then I will be averaging about 7 hours on my weekdays, right? Including flexibility. So I'm not doing this every day. Now, that's 7 without counting practice tests. So I can do a practice test on Saturday, and then I do this early so I get it out of the way. And I can either do review right after, but realistically, I will be tired, so I would rather do it on Sunday, maybe a little later on Sunday. So review, practice test. And then technically I'm getting more to 10 hours and a half here, plus 3 more hours here. So that's 13, about 14 hours of work. I think this is very realistic for me specifically. So use that as a template for yourself. All right, let me go back to the question. So stop presenting here, presenting. The questions. All right. And let me just answer some of the last few questions. I'm interested in taking GRE course. So can you please give me discount for registration? Yes. So I don't know if you're here still, but to answer your question, you can use YouTube 10 during checkout. Or coupon code YouTube 10 at checkout. But also consider the subscription plus admissions plan, which has a bundle special right now, and I think that's a very sweet deal. So here it goes. Okay. Sorry, but what is GRE prep on the weekdays? Is it just learning vocab or something over, or you can go back in time and check out what to do every day. So I want you to do a little bit of everything, to do quant and verbal throughout, and in those weeks, um, have like devote some time to learning concepts that you're not too strong in, then practicing material, either doing on time practice and then also doing time practice. More often than not, those will be either full sections or full practice exams, the timed ones. But the drills will help you gauge whether what you're learning, what the lessons that you're watching, if you are retaining the actual knowledge. So that's why you can do vocab work on some of the study prep sessions, and then you can squeeze in maybe um, three to four um, 3 or 4 lessons, or reading a chapter, or doing a few practice questions in between, in those 30-minute chunks or 1 hour chunks, depending on how much time you've allotted for yourself. What about learning vocabulary? Which source do you use? Well, the internet is a great source, but if you don't know where to start, Magoosh has a free vocabulary app that has gotten, again, good reviews, not just from me, but from other people that do not work at Magoosh. Let me see, Magoosh vocab flashcards or app. Mm, yes, copy, paste. Here you go. I sent that in chat already. Thank you for your question. And Faith, this question also answers this vocab app also answers your question. Flow state. I forgot all maths and I am very weak at vocabularies. How can I start preparing early? Well, you forgot all maths. Is that, do you know it was like all of math, or that's the feeling that you get? Because what I will tell you is automatically do the hardest thing. The hardest thing is what intimidates us, and that is exactly taking the full GRE. So not the actual test, but a full practice test. Know what you're scoring, and then the score will give you it will break down everything by topics. Okay, so by quant, by verbal, and then each topic within those. Harsh, when asked when to study is done, what to study, which sections to do first. Same thing, same as flow state. There's no answer fits all. It all depends on your base knowledge. So I cannot sit here and pretend to have all the answers to every single person, because you know yourself best. But if you don't know where to start, taking the diagnostic test will be a good first step. If you don't know where to find those, go a little bit back into this live lesson or live stream, and you will see where to get those. So they are free tests from different companies, but I highly recommend you take a free test from ETS with official material. Why? Because that will be the closest thing to the real GRE, and you want to judge your performance based on that. You could use all the other free tests as well, but use those for practice and for learning, but not for gauging your performance, because there can be a little bit of variance between questions and how they're written, the level of difficulty, and so forth, just because the GRE is so specific. Well, thank you guys for staying. We are 16 minutes over, but I hope that I got to answer most, if not all, of the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't do your specific or use you as an example to create a calendar, but with both the student and the working professional calendar, I hope that that can serve as a kind of template, or um, as a guide to use as an example. Okay, guys. Well, thank you and best of luck in the rest of your study prep journey and when you actually go ahead and take the final test. Think of like believe in yourself, work hard, and things will go positively. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.